Next up, we head to Eastwood, an inner city suburb of Adelaide, to see what's behind this classic bluestone cottage facade that dates back to circa 1880. Owner Robert and designer Ben from Ply Architecture take us through this custom project where old inspires new.
I bought the house about 8 years ago, and there was a lean-to on the back that was all eaten out by white ant. And in fact, the old cottage was nearly derelict, so it was a bit of a process, but finally got there and had the opportunity to build a new kitchen and bathroom onto the back of the house. So it's an 1880s cottage, so it's quite an early area for Adelaide. It's typical of its period. It's a bluestone double-fronted cottage with a central door and a hallway down the middle, and the bedrooms and living areas coming off that. It was important for me to really create a modern space onto the back of that so that I could bring the house into the 21st century. I wanted to find an architect who I felt thought in a similar way to me, but also because I do work in the creative industries, I wanted to give that person freedom to develop a plan. I think because of that, I wasn't afraid of colour, different materials, pattern and so on. So I didn't want a sort of a stock standard white kitchen, white bathroom. I wanted something a bit different and a bit more unique that reflected my personality and also gave the architect freedom to create something interesting for me.
Merging the old to the new was one of the main sort of drivers of the extension, and what we looked at as a result of that was really the sort of red brick miner's cottage that was existing. We really tried to pull some of that brickwork through from the front out to the back, and as a result, we actually didn't see any of the brickwork of the existing place until it was demolished, and so that's sort of what led to the selection of the brick. And we tried to work with quite a dark palette to sort of tie in, and you can sort of see where from the existing back portion, it is quite a darker tone. So that was the main driver, and we really wanted to get that flow that when you open the front door, you basically can see the whole way through the space out to the backyard.
Here the brick is the old and the new hero of the home. Merging the old bluestone with a darker palette of PGH Gledeswood blend, the brick is featured inside and through to the back to create flow from the heritage elements of the old home into the new additions.
The brick we used on this project is a PGH Gledeswood blend brick. We originally were looking at the linear profile, which was a much sort of smaller, thinner, longer profile, but through the process we opted to go back to the sort of standard size. To sort of change it up a little bit from the standard brick bond, we decided to go with a 2/3, 1/3. You can see that the bricks are sort of offset 2/3. That just created a bit of interest over the entire facade. The brick intentionally wraps from inside to outside, and the idea was that we really wanted to blur the threshold of inside and out. And the sort of the reasoning that it runs from inside to out was to sort of maintain that material consistency. We worked really hard to make sure that the bond of the brick was consistent throughout, and really create that sort of blurred threshold. The bathroom space is very unique. We looked at it on a bigger scale of how it would be used. The clients really wanted a sort of a bigger space that had a lot of natural light and some warmth. And we looked at the opportunity to rather than bring natural light in through the western aspect, which would heat up quite dramatically in the summer, looked at getting natural light in from the roof. So we put a really large skylight in. The idea was that when you're standing in the shower, that natural light would basically bounce off the mirrors and keep it a really light, warm space.
It's quite a small site, so I didn't want the new extension to remove too much of the garden, but I did want a nice big open plan kitchen, which I could use really as a sort of casual living space, but in the future someone else could have a nice big dining table in here.
Kitchen is basically also the living space as such, and that was due to the width of the block and the width of the project. and then really tried to privatise and sort of enclose the wet areas, the new bathroom, the laundry and the toilet. And the reason that we sort of used brick in that instance was to really make that the solid element and make it almost uncomfortable to move down there. And so that becomes the more private areas, whereas the open public spaces as such, like the kitchen and the living area, is much brighter and lighter.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The new extension really gives me the freedom to enjoy the back garden. Also, my partner's a pastry chef and cook, so we wanted a nice big kitchen that he could use. And the bathroom, I still love the bathroom, and especially the bath. It's probably one of my favourite elements of the new extension.